Hello and welcome back on my YouTube channel, Parth Doshi Learning by Doing. So today in this video, we are going to see one of the very interesting implementations of UiPath Data Service. In UiPath Data Service, we can add data in two ways. One is to add the records individually, and the second one is to add the records as a collection. So in this video, we are going to see how you can add the records in collection. So there were many resources I was trying to find with respect to this, but I did not find something very straightforward. So I'm creating this particular video wherein we'll use the create multiple entity records activity and insert all the data from our Excel file to our data service. So let's get started. So now first we'll create our data service entity. For that, we have to go to our cloud.uipath.com, and here in data service, we are going to create our entity. Before that, what you need to do is, if data service is not enabled on your cloud, UiPath cloud, go to admin. In tenants, go to tenant setting and select data service over here. And now we have test manager as well. So I'll soon be making video on that as well. But yeah, if you don't have data service enabled, you can enable in this way. Now my data service is created and I have created this one entity. So you can just click on create new entity and put your name, whatever you want to. And this is the person details and details entity that I have created. Now here there are 5 default fields already available, which are system built-in field, as you can see, and they're pretty much helpful. Any entry that you do, we definitely need these details, that when it was created, by whom it was created, or which machine robot updated it, anything like that. So in that case, these 5 entities or 5 fields of this particular entity are pretty much helpful. Now what I'm going to store is, I'm going to store name, and it is going to be a text, right? And I'm going to click on save. The second field that I'm going to create is going to be age, but it's going to be a number. And more details, you have minimum, maximum value, and then decimal places. Decimal places, I'm going to put it as 0. Default value, nothing. You can add the description if you want. So this is their age, and let's put gender. And this is going to be again going to be a text. And anything else over here? Nothing. So you can have the maximum length or something like that. So we can keep the maximum length 10 over here, and we can click on save. So in this way, we have created our entities and we have created our fields. Now we are going to have this same data in an Excel file, and we are going to insert it. So I've created a simple UiPath process wherein I'm going to go to that folder, new, and I'm going to create an Excel file, which I'm going to name it as person details. Yep. And I'm going to open it. Now I'm going to name it as name, age, and gender. Okay, now here many people might have a question that, does the column name of my Excel file have to match with the column names or the field name of my entity? No, that is not compulsory that your column name of an Excel file should match your entity field. So I think this is one of the, again, an added advantage now. But still, how it is going to map to this particular field, that I'll show in the further process as we develop it. So I'm going to put it as name. Let me put it as par 22 male. Then I'm going to put it as Rajesh 25 male. I'm going to put it as Sita 23 and female, and Nita 24 and female. Okay, and I'm going to save this file. Now let's start building our UiPath process. But before that, we will connect this particular entity to our UiPath process. For that, you need to click on manage entities and click on refresh over here. So the other created entity will be available. So person details is available over here, and I'm going to click on save. So when I click on save button over here in my manage entities, I will be seeing the same over here in this entities panel. So let's wait for a second. Okay, this is some instruction, but yeah, let's see over here. So we have person details. Now to perform data service automation, we need one more package, that is my UiPath data service package. Install and click on save. And now this is inserted as well. Okay, now our first step is going to be read range, and we are going to read our Excel file. So I'm going to indicate this particular file, and yeah, okay, and let's name it as dt underscore person details. Okay, so this is where we are reading our Excel file. Now, what is the data service activity that we are going to use? Here we have three types of categories of activities. One is file upload. Entity is which we have normally seen in many cases. This is entering a single record. Now what I want is I want to add the records multiple records. So I'm going to drag this. Okay, now entity type, my entity type is person details. So I have to search for that. So you have to click on this, click on browse for types, and just type your entity name. So as soon as you do that, you will see this over and click on OK. After you have done that, now let's see what input it requires. It requires a collection of person details, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to create a collection of that person details. Now, collection is basically a list, you can say. So let me create a list, person details, right? For here, you have to click on browse for types, search for list, under system.collection generic, select this, and list of data service dot person details. So this is one very important thing that you have to note, right? And that you have to create a list which you can add multiple records to. So this I have created a list of person details. Person details is basically my entity name, and I'm going to pass it over here. So now you see, till now there are no errors. As we can see, we have passed our person list. Now what we have done is we have read our Excel data, we have passed our entity records to our this particular activity. Now we need to map the data table activities, data table data to my this record. So basically we need to convert our data table into this particular category, which is directly not possible. So for that we are going to use for each row, and we are going to convert it. Okay, now before that, this list that we have created, anytime when we create a list, even a normal list of string, we have to initialize it. So here I'm going to do the same. Here I'm going to initialize my person details list in this way. So you have to type new list of, like you normally do, of, and your type is going to be person details. Okay, I think this is a variable, but yeah, person details. So this is going to be your type, and I'm going to click on OK. Now there are no errors. Let me again explain this part. This is a little complex part to understand. So what we did is we created a list. Now what we are doing with this assign statement is we are basically initializing that particular list so that we can later add data to that particular list using add to collection activity. Okay, now for each row in my DT person details. Now, there are two things always. There is a list and then there is a single record that you add data to. So when we use dictionary and when we have add to collection or any that kind of activities, what we do is, one, we give input our list to which we want to add the item. So here what we are going to do is we are going to create one more variable which is going to be per details, and this variable type will be of data service dot person details. So basically this was my collection, and now I'm going to create a single entity for that. And again we need to initialize it. So this is going to be per details. This is basically an object of my entity that I will be using within my UiPath. Here again we have initialized it. So this was the initialization of list, and this was the initialization of a single record. Now we need to use multiple assign first, since we have 3 data. So when you do per details dot, all your field values are available over here: age, ID, and name. And I think the third one which we have is a gender. So first I'm going to select name, then I'm going to use per detail. So if you see, this is how we access the concept of inheritance. It is basically creating an object of a class and then using its functions or variables. So the same thing we are doing over here. We have created an object per details dot gender. Now the values are going to come from current row. Okay, so it is going to be current row bracket, it is going to be name dot toString. Okay, so now if you see, even though the Excel column would have been of some other name, it wouldn't have mattered because here we are mapping it in this particular way. Now for this particular input, I need to pass a numeric value. So what I'm going to do is convert dot to int 32, and then I'm going to write current row bracket age dot toString. So first I'm converting it to string and then to an integer. So this I'm going to copy, paste, and I'm going to write gender over here, right? Okay, so this I have created a single record. How am I going to add it to this particular list? That is my, so we are going to use add to collection activity. My collection is my person details collection, and my single entity is per details. Now this error is because this needs to be changed to data service dot person details. Okay, let me explain how this particular namespace is created. So data service, if you see, that is my project name, and person details is my entity name. So your project name, that means your workflow name or project process name, dot entity name is your workspace type. So that you need to create. Now again, to break it down it into steps, we first created our data service entity and we added the fields. In the process, we first read the Excel file. We used our create multiple records. For that, we created a list of my entities. Then we create a single record entity for that, and we are adding it into the collection. Now, once it is added into the collection, because you cannot directly convert your data table to some data type, which is data service dot person details. This is not logically possible to convert that. So we are converting it using this particular loop, and we are adding it to our collection, and then we are adding the data. Now, many people might have questioned that, okay, anyways, we are using a loop. So then what is the use of this particular activity? So we'll see the answer for that within a second. But first, let's run it and see if we have built the right workflow or not. Okay, you don't have permission to access the entity field. Okay, let me check this. Okay, so that error was something related to my orchestrator access, because I am working on a new machine. So it was because of that. Now let's try to execute it. If I click on run file, we don't have any errors, and let's come. This is our entity and refresh it. So now if you see, all the 4 data are available over here. and it was a bulk insert. As we can see over here, create multiple entity records. We added elements to the list, and that list was directly sent over here. Now, you might have a question that if we are anyways using a for loop, why can't we add the data individually? Okay. So now here, if you see, here we are not again and again calling the API of data service. So this basically these activities that are built in the backend, there are API calls happening. So here you are doing only one API call to your data service, which is now in this case it is only 4 data rows. So the process, we won't know the difference that much. But when it comes to handling 1000, 2000 entities or 2000 data rows, at that time this will create an impact. So in that case, here to add to the list, the process is anyways going to happen faster. But when it comes to making the API call, this one API call will insert all the data. So in this way, we can insert data in batch from our data table to our data service. I hope this particular concept was clear and you were able to get a complete idea about the workflow, how to build and where you should write what. So I hope this video helped you to understand how to use create multiple entity records. If you have any use case or any activity implementation that you would like to see with respect to database data service, do comment in the comment section. I'll try to come up with the video on that as well. Thank you so much for watching the complete video. See you in the next video.